Hi, everybody. It's Paul Ramsey, and I'm joined today by Cecilia Bergstein, board certified hypnotist. She's going to be presenting at the 2017 NGH convention, and we're here today to talk about her session. It's a 1 hour, and it's called From Grief to a Joyful Life. It is going to be on Saturday, August 12th at 8 a.m. sharp. How are you, Cecilia?
I'm fine. How are you, Paul?
I'm outstanding. I'm glad to have you here. Well, first, we've never talked, so I want you to tell me a little bit about yourself. How'd you get into hypnotism?
Actually, it was a traumatic event that drew me into hypnotism.
Oh, my.
My dad died in front of me
Oh,
when I was 14. And because it happened in the middle of the night, I was the only one to witness it. And of course, everybody else was drawn into it shortly after it happened, but I actually saw the event. And after it happened between 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning. I became insomniatic. And I would go to sleep at whatever hour and then promptly wake up at 3:33 in the morning. And I was very friendly with an RN who lived in my neighborhood. And she said, "See, you need to study hypnosis and see if that'll help you get back to sleep." So I went to the library, which was my favorite hangout because I was very bookish. And I got a book with a purple spiral on the cover called The Magic of Hypnosis. And I would have eaten it if I could. And I learned self-hypnosis. It's true. I learned self-hypnosis from a fixation point. And my wallpaper, I can see it still, had these big purple flowers on it. And I started studying self-hypnosis from a fixation point every night. And it didn't work right away. But after 3 or 4 nights, I started drifting off as I was fixating and concentrating. After about a week, I fell asleep and my sleep patterns improved. So, wise guy that I can be sometimes, although I don't appear that way, I started hypnotizing other people. And I was involved in all sorts of extracurricular activities. And although I was a brainiac, so no one ever suspected anything of me, I hypnotized a whole busload of kids on a trip.
what? A
Yep.
whole busload.
Yep, a whole busload. And I gave very odd post-hypnotic suggestions. Like one was not allowed to wear their left shoe. One kept on asking for a red balloon, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Sent all these kids home with odd post-hypnotic suggestions.
Oh, my God.
Little did I know that one of the kids I traveled with in this activity had a dad who was a stage magician. He figured it out. Maybe he hypnotized her.
Yeah.
And he strong-armed me, and he said, "If you're going to do this, I want to teach you really how to do it." And he did. And from that point, I was taught about it as an occupation. And I became trained in special education and in music and sang for the majority of my life. And I have sung in every major concert hall in New York City many, many, many times. And became a certified life coach in 2001 after losing a bunch of family members in 9/11, and thought, you know what, talked to one of my teachers, have always been drawn to healing. And she said to me, people don't come to me because of my personality or because of my healer's heart. They come to me because of my certification. And she said, "Cecilia, take all of your talents, write them down on a piece of paper, and decide what you want to get certified in now." And I decided on the NGH. And so it's a lifetime really of hypnosis.
Wow.
But I've been hooked on it, but I didn't ever think I could earn money from it.
Yeah.
But here
What
we
a
are.
fun story. Thank you for sharing that. That's
Thank
awesome.
you.
That's great.
But I'm not a wise guy about it anymore. Really.
So we got that going for us. We don't have to worry about that. That's nice. That's
No.
So you have a lot of years then, your years with hypnosis go well beyond your certification, your professional practice. You've probably seen a lot and learned a lot, especially for someone who describes themselves as bookish. Of all the things that you've seen and been exposed to in the realm of hypnotism, why are you choosing to do this 1 hour on From Grief to a Joyful Life? Why that topic?
Because I believe that all that we have in the world is one another, and that grief is something and can change people forever. And the archetype for me is the widow who wears black for the rest of her life, or the parent who loses a child and never seems to get past it. And my late husband was on the National Board of Make-A-Wish, and the statistic is high, is that the divorce rate among parents who lose children is almost 90%. They can't seem to reconcile the loss.
I did not
So
know
whether
that.
it's the loss of a pet or a limb or a family member, a parent, a child, we can never really quantify loss, but we know that once we experience an extreme loss, grief can hold us in its grip. And unless we learn to take that grief and change it around and embrace joy, our lives will be forever changed. So I think it's really important as hypnotists that we learn that we have the tools within our hypnosis toolbox to help people. And grief is something very unusual. It's an unusual kind of sadness. And because it can embrace identity in grief, right?
Yeah.
A woman that's a married woman is no longer the married woman once she loses her husband, right? It transcends
Right.
her identity.
Right.
Or right, a kid loses their parent or loses both parents, is now an orphan, right? It really does transcend identity. So it's very important to me. And because, oddly enough, or maybe intentionally enough, if we believe in predestination, I have witnessed 6 close family members' deaths. I've seen a sibling die. My late husband died in front of me. My grandmother died while I was on the phone with her when I was 13. Witnessed my father's death, my mother, and someone else. I'm forgetting somebody. But I've witnessed 6 people die. So I figured there's got to be a reason for that, right?
Yeah. We don't need to meet at the convention. You can just
No,
stay
no, no,
on
no,
one
no,
end.
no. But I mean,
My
the
Lord,
fact of it is that I've always been able to handle it, right? I'm still
I've
here.
never met anyone who's been even close to that experience. There is something remarkable there, though. Like
Right.
that is really, yeah. Tell me more about what you think that's all about.
What I think of, well, I'm grateful that I survived it, right? I'm
Yeah.
grateful that, when my grandmother, I didn't know what was going on with her. I was too young. I was 13 and she was
Yeah.
struggling on the phone. And then I learned that, later on that in that night she passed away. My dad, obviously something happened in front of me. And then later on in life, my mother, then my husband, my sister, and then last year, my stepdad. That was the 6th one.
Yeah.
And, in all totality, I chose to be close to people and take care of them, right?
Yeah.
But particularly my husband, my mother, and my stepdad. So I'm grateful that I did. And death is really a part of life, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's all
So,
part of the process.
right.
Yeah.
But what we do beyond that, we have to celebrate their life and celebrate our life. And I really meant what I said. All we have as humans in the world is one another, right?
Right. Right. I keep coming back in my head to what you said about identity, and I have my own little bias about that, but I think it's a pretty useful one. I find that it's the most overlooked aspect of our behavior. I find that so often when I work with
Right,
clients,
right,
the threats to their identity are often what is driving the problem they call the problem that they come to me for, but it's not really the problem. It's a symptom of the problem, right? And the the
right,
problem is
right.
that threat to. So I really think that's a huge thing. Again, it's so easy for people to overlook the idea that this loss is now threatening my understanding of self as a wife, as a mother, as a sister, or yeah.
It could be the loss of, they could be grieving the loss of a job.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
They can be, and they get how, they could be grieving the loss of a house. It can be a material object they're grieving over.
Yeah.
We often think of it only as we've lost a parent, a child, a pet, a limb. But very often, people that go through a house fire will be totally transfixed by grief
Yeah.
because they think they've lost memories. But have they really? No. And we can help them that way.
Right.
So that's why it's important to me.
When you think about
Because
what you're,
grief really equals loss.
yes. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And so when you think about how you're going to spend this hour with people, if people are going to come and spend this hour with you, um, beyond, I mean, the conceptual stuff that you're sharing is spot on and wonderful for me, but those people who are going to spend this hour with you, where's the value for them in what they're going to learn and be able to do after they leave that hour?
Okay. Well, first of all, we go through what the traditional stages of grief are with what they expect, as
Okay.
in losing a person,
Sure.
and then explore what other grief can be, whether it's about grieving what we're talking about,
Yep.
depending upon how big the group is. If it's a group of about 20, we might get through something more than people. But if we're talking as the loss of a job, or the loss of economy,
Yep.
or the loss of a house, all the tools are the same. The stages of grief are the same, whether or not it's material or it's emotional.
Right.
And the tools for recovery are the same, depending upon the type of personality. And it's important for the hypnotist to understand what kind of personality they're dealing with.
Okay. All right. All right. I want to make you go more there, but then it's like, well, then why would it? I don't
Why
want you to
go?
give away the
Why go?
content of
Right,
your. It's
right,
fascinating to me. I love it.
right,
I love it.
right.
But we're
Yeah,
not going to push you further than that.
right.
Okay.
But you
So
get it, right? So
yeah,
I
I
give them
totally do.
tools.
I
I
totally
give
do.
them tools, obviously, and help them however I can. And then there are other modalities that I personally use to stimulate the brain in a person that's grieving like that,
Okay.
because
Okay.
you want to redirect them and you want to
Yep.
give them things to do, because the conventional wisdom keep busy, 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 but there are ways to keep people busy and question them, to reroute them and
Right.
redirect them.
Right.
And this old thing about don't make any decisions, no, 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 no. Yeah, make them stagnate more for years and years, right?
Right. Right. Yeah. We don't promote spinning the wheels. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Very good. All right. So that's it. I've heard what I need to hear. I think anyone who's watching this should have a clear sense of what you're bringing to the table at this presentation. If people want to learn more about you before then and what you do, what's a way for them to learn about you or get in touch with you?
Well, I have a website that's linked to my name, and I have two wizards working on it to make it more Herculean.
Okay.
And the other reason why I chose this topic, I should tell you, Paul, is because I lost 5 family members in 9/11.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
So, well, no, but I saw how the world changed.
Sure.
And that made me a life coach. That made me
Yeah.
go into life coaching. I became a certified life coach. And then I said, from the life coaching, it really wasn't enough.
Yeah.
But, I think from that point forward, the world really has changed.
Oh, yeah. I think so too. Yeah. I agree with that.
Now I hear your New Hampshire accent.
Yeah. It comes,
When you
yeah.
said, I think so
Usually I
too.
keep it pretty, yeah. No,
I
I
heard that.
agree with you. I think that I always think of 9/11 as not a, if I'm really being careful with my language, I think of it not as something that changed the world on its own. I think of it as like an incredible catalyst of the change that was already happening. I feel like it took the change that we were going through culturally of moving more toward fear and uncertainty, and I just feel like it just massively accelerated it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I get that. Well, that's awesome. It's been so great to talk to you. You guys remember Saturday, August 12th, 8 a.m. From Grief to a Joyful Life with Cecilia Bergstein. And thank you so much for making time
Thank
for me.
you,
I'm
Paul.
grateful. All right, we'll
Thank you. I
see
can't
you in
wait to
August.
meet you.
Nice to meet you. Thank you so much.
See you.